Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hey everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. I am delighted to be joined by BOWEN YOUNG on the show today. Hello, Clare and Brandon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Really good. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to chat with you about your new album, your songwriting process, and so much more. But before we get into all of that, I would love for you to share, for each of you to share a little about yourself and your journey into getting started in music.
My journey with music, I guess, in some ways started very early, and in some ways started very late. I grew up sort of learning how to sing, with my mother singing to my sister and I at our bedside, and so that just sort of led to, children's choir and, choir in the church, singing gospel music. And I was a really terrible athlete in school, so I sort of I sort of just gravitated towards plays and musicals and singing and things like that. So in that way, I started really young singing with my family, but I actually didn't start writing songs until I was 24 years old, probably. Um, so I didn't actually pick up the guitar and start to learn until, yeah, I was 24. My parents bought I said I wanted to learn how to play guitar. My parents bought me a $250 Yamaha acoustic guitar, and that's what I moved to Nashville with. And I got to Nashville, got a day job as a courier downtown, delivering documents for lawyers. And at night, I taught myself how to play guitar and started trying my hand at writing songs. And that was in October of 2000. I moved to Nashville, and I've been here ever since.
Awesome. Perfect. I love how your first guitar was the acoustic Yamaha because mine was the same.
It's
Yeah.
a good one to start on. It
Right.
really is. They're very reliable, and
Right.
yeah, my sister still has that guitar, so it's it's
Oh, I
it's
love
it's
it.
very precious.
Now I have my two Taylors and my Fender.
Yes, exactly.
Love
Perfect. All right, Claire, how about you?
I came to the US as an actor in 2012. I'm from Australia, and I remember standing at my agent's desk in LA reading this amazing script called Nashville, and I fell in love with a character called Scarlett O'Connor. And when I learned that I was going to be able to audition for her, I was over the moon, and I really just thought somebody somebody well known will get this, and it'll be amazing, and I'll probably love watching it. But I'll just go in and just for the experience of the casting because it was my very first pilot season, and that's always kind of I don't know, it's tough out there. But I booked it, and my agent called me and said after a very sort of stressful 37-hour period of meeting the ABC and Disney and Callie and T-Bone Burnett. And my agent called me and said, "Hey, kid, guess what? You got the job." I was like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "You move into Nashville." I was like, "Great. Where is that?" So I didn't know. I knew Nashville was special, but I didn't know just how special it would become, particularly in my life. So I was shipped out here to be on a film set, and Brandon and I met at the Bridgestone Arena when I needed an emergency duet partner, and he was called in at the last minute, and it was something that was I never really thought that I would find myself um, in this place, being able to do music for a living. But that night, when Brandon came and filled in for uh, somebody who didn't show up, was the very beginning of us singing together. We met 20 minutes before we walked out on the Bridgestone stage, and I think we'd sang the song through like twice.
Yeah, we sang through the song twice with your guitar player in your dressing room, and and then it was go time.
Yeah.
Show was starting, and
Yeah, we walked out in front of a sold out Bridgestone Arena and sang together for the first time live. and he was magic. And it just sort of, well, it worked out.
Yeah.
It escalated from there.
Yeah.
We tried to be professional and not fall in love, but that didn't work.
Yeah. No, no, I was in the midst of touring with an artist named John Hyatt, who is a brilliant American songwriter, singer, performer, and I was in his band. And so that night after the Bridgestone, I didn't even get to say goodbye to Claire because I had to get. I basically walked straight off the stage, handed the mic to the stage manager, and jumped on a tour bus with Hyatt and left town for 3 months on tour. And so, Claire and I kept in touch via text for those 3 months that I was away. And when I got back to town, we got together shortly thereafter and wrote our first song together, and that was sort of the second step in our journey of making music together. And
Yeah.
we ultimately ended up writing Claire's entire uh, first solo album together.
Yep.
Um,
And just that first song, I called him afterwards, and like after we'd written it, and said, "Hey, like this is a duet. I don't want to sing this on my own. It's supposed to be sung with someone, and I want to sing it with you." So it was all like these strange serendipitous things that brought us together. And frankly, it's amazing that we live in a time where a girl from like the other side of the planet to here could get to here to meet a boy who was from Connecticut, moved to the same town. It's they just very strange series of events, but we're just really grateful that everything happened the way it did.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that's such a fabulous story. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I would love to dig deeper into your journey songwriting together. So, as individuals, you obviously bring your own personal flavors to the process when you're creating songs. And so, how do you go about doing the lyrics and the melody? Do you have similar writing processes? Either of you bring a certain aspect to that song and lean more heavily into others? So how'd that look for you?
It really depends on the song.
Yeah.
It always just starts with an idea, and whether that idea is a melody or a line or a title or one word or just, I don't know. Sometimes you can have way more than that. Sometimes someone will come in with a whole chorus, and you're like, well, we're not gonna make that any better. So like, it just works from there. But we both bring a variation of things to the table when we're writing, and I'm very grateful to have been able to write with Brandon for, I mean, goodness, 10 years now. Because I came here, as an actor, and my experience in music had been musical theater, and I was classically trained, so I didn't even know how to use a microphone, let alone write a song. It was actually a bit like my character. I wrote poetry, which is same but different. So I've learned a lot about like the format of a song from working with Brandon.
Yeah, I would say that um, we both like to come up with lyrics. We both like to come up with melodies. Um, a lot of times, it may be, just strumming on the acoustic guitar, and a melody starts to fall out, and that leads to a spark of an idea. And we both have you know a list a mile long of song ideas and song titles and pieces of lyrics, and that those are things that we're it's a list that we're constantly adding to. You might be reading a book, you might be driving down the road and see a billboard, you may be watching a movie, and some spark of an idea taps you on the shoulder. And you know life is crazy and busy, and you don't always have the opportunity to just stop what you're doing and write a song. So we write down those ideas as they sort of come past, and then we get around to them, when we can.
Yeah, you got to jump on them though. We kind of look like all songwriters do this, but we all look like crazy people walking around talking into our phones. We look
Oh
like we
yeah,
talk
all the time.
to ourselves, making voice memos. Like, I swear
Yep,
this is
yep.
productive. Please don't judge me.
Exactly.
You gotta document it because everyone will be like, "Oh, I'll remember the next day," and then it's like, "Oh wait, I had a song idea yesterday. What was that?" And then it's completely gone.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, and it's so frustrating when you
Ugh.
don't write it down and then you do lose it and just
Hmm.
like, "Why didn't I write it?"
Yeah. Oh, so you did mention, this sparking of an idea multiple times and, reading books, watching movies, just driving down the road. And so different things in our lives can spark inspiration for songs. Do you tend to write personal and autobiographically as well, or do you like to create fictional stories based on the different things that pop into your head based on what you're experiencing throughout your day-to-day lives?
Well, everything on this record, on us, is a story that we've lived. And it, I don't know, I was taught early on in creative writing classes at university, write what you know first.
Mhm.
Um, and I guess Brandon always says, like, if somebody's not very fond of songs about loving each other, they're probably going to hate the album because we really like each other, and that's what most of the songs are about. There's definitely, like, we have written fictional things,
Yes.
but this record, we really,
It's
I mean,
very personal.
yeah, indicative of the title. We wanted it to be us.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for, eh, as a songwriter, you may walk into an opportunity to write with someone else, and they might be looking for something specific. They may have an idea that's for them, and it may very well be fictional. It may well just be a story, a story that they want to tell that's not necessarily about them. And so sometimes you put that hat on where you're writing for somebody else,
Mm.
and you want to serve the song. You want to write the best song that is in the room that day.
Yeah.
And if it's, obviously if it's for something for Claire and I for a Bowen Young project, then it is going to be deeply personal. But if it's, if we're writing a country song for one of our friends who's an artist, we may wear a different hat that day. We may
Mhm.
play a different role. Sometimes you write songs for, you know, music that's going to be in the background on a television show or a movie, and that in and of itself can be a different style of writing where you're sort of wearing a different hat, at least in our experience.
Yeah.
And obviously different for everybody, but that's sort of a bit of our experience.
And I think one of the recurring themes there, something that's really important to us, like, yes, they're all stories that we have lived and feelings that we've felt and things we've been through. Um, but we really want people to hear their stories in our stories. So we always leave an open door for people to interpret it in a way that's relevant to their lives, because it's really not. I mean, it's called us, but just as artists, as musicians, as performers, it's not about us. Like, the shows, they're not about us. It's about the audience and what they want and making them happy.
Right.
So just leaving space for people to hear their own stories in our stories. That's
Mm,
really important.
Yeah.
mm,
No, for sure. And I think that's a really important skill for a songwriter. And I too write autobiographically. I'm also an author and I write fiction. So I do the autobiographical stuff as a songwriter and then a fiction as an author. But, I've definitely been in situations co writing with other songwriters if they wanted to write maybe a personal experience in their life that I haven't experienced. And so I had to think fictional because I didn't personally experience that. But you're exactly right. I think that creating a balance between writing something genuine and vulnerable and personal to you, but also giving it a universal quality where it's not so specific to your life that nobody else can see themselves in that. It's more of telling your story in a way that conveys a universal emotional message that can resonate with anyone who is going through the same thing or has gone through the same thing, just to see that, hey, like I went through this too. And it's just another way of framing an experience, because I think what's so cool about songwriting is like we tend to typically write about the similar topics of love, heartbreak, different things that kind of come up emotionally, but because we all have our own personal lives, we experience those things differently. And so it's really
sure.
cool listening to songs and seeing how we take these universal human emotions and experiences, but write them in a way that's personal to us while still being relatable.
Right.
Yeah, and it's
Right.
an honor when people do hear their stories in
Right.
ours. It's a true honor.
Yeah.
We get to be part of people's, like, very special moments, walking down the aisle and first dances, and it's people entering the world, people leaving the world, birthdays. It's that it's a massive honor that, and it's never lost on us that every fan that shows up at our shows is a dream come true. They're allowing us to live our dream, and so each and every one of them is a dream come true for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That makes me think.
Fabulous.
I was walking through downtown Nashville years ago when I was still a courier, and I was, delivering documents, and I was on the phone with my mom, and I was having a bit of a rough day. I was sort of feeling uh, kind of down, just that it's a tough business, and it's a difficult business uh, to break into, but also make sustainable. And my mom just was really encouraging in the way that she framed it for me, which was sort of what Claire just touched on. Is she said, Brandon, this is serious work that you're doing. The songs that you will write, the songs that you're writing now, will become the soundtrack to people's lives, and that is all sorts of different experiences. And I had never heard it put that way, and it really encouraged me in a profound way that songs, they matter. They might matter to just the author, or they might matter to the author and their family, or millions of people. You never know. It's just very, very crazy to think about how far a song can travel and outlive us.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully 300-500 years from now, people will still be listening to some of these. It's just pretty insane to think about.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
the grand.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that sometimes songwriters don't get the respect and recognition that we deserve. And I think that the general public can reflect a little more on when they hear a song on the radio or on Spotify that really makes them stop and think and makes them feel something and makes them reflect on something in their life. Like that song exists because songwriters brought it into existence. And so I think respect to all the songwriters out there forever.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's something that T-Bone Burnett and Buddy Miller, my mentors, really, they always talk about the person who wrote the song, and so that when I got here, I just expected that that's what everyone did because somebody else wrote the song, or some like other people wrote the song with the artist. Like, why would you not? Why would you not mention the person who brought you this song that you love because you're
Mm.
singing it on a stage?
Yeah.
And so for me, that just seemed like the most obvious thing. And T-Bone and Buddy were always like, "Yeah, that's what you do." And I was kind of shocked to find out that it's not what a lot of people do
Mm.
here.
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, I just remember growing up and like, I don't know, going to a Katy Perry concert and be like, oh my God, like Katy wrote all these amazing songs. And then you look at the song credits and like there's some that she co-wrote, there's some that maybe she didn't even have a hand in at all and it was pitched to her. And like, oh, there's so many artists like that who are just a recording artist and not the songwriter as well. And growing up, especially when I didn't really know much about the music industry, I just assumed that the artists singing the songs wrote them too, but not everyone's Taylor Swift. So I think, yeah, I definitely always like think about like even when I see a song that I love or hear it, I always look at the song credits to see who wrote it, just because I think it's just a way of showing appreciation for the songwriters.
It is, and those artists who don't write songs that they might be a wonderful showman, and they 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 don't do the songwriting thing, and that's totally cool. The song would not do what it ends up doing without them
Sure.
lending their voice and putting it out into the world. So it's
Right.
very much a partnership.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Fabulous. Well, you mentioned your album Us a couple times, and so now I want to give you the opportunity to share a little track by track. If you can share each song and what it's called and brief inspiration behind what inspired it. And then at the end, what you hope listeners take away from this project as a whole.
Oh,
Okay,
all right. Well,
track one.
yeah, track one is a song called Water to Wine, and it was the very first song that we wrote for this album. We wrote it over Zoom during the lockdown of the pandemic, and it was the very first writing session we had with a gentleman named Sean McConnell, who ultimately ended up producing our album. And he's just an incredibly gifted, amazing person. And We wrote it over Zoom. It was the only Zoom session over the entire pandemic that we actually wrote and finished a song.
Because there's always a leaf blower.
Yeah,
Always.
Zoom writing can be really challenging, but with Sean, it was really wonderful. And he said after we were done, he's like, "You guys should come by the studio sometime soon, and we'll start sort of building a track for this song." So we did. We went to the studio when things calmed down a bit in the world, and recorded the song. And when we were driving home from the studio, we probably were not in the car 3 minutes, and Claire said, "He's the one. Like, he is the one who needs to produce this album." And so that was sort of the beginning of our journey, of making this record.
Yeah.
And we felt like it was just poetic to put it as track one on the album, because it was the very first song we wrote, Sean.
And finding a sound that is something that we'd been searching for a really long time. And it gave us, like, I don't know, it gave us a runway to all of the others, I suppose. The next one is Hair of the Dog. It's a fun one. And it's, we walk out on stage and we ask who's got a hangover, and there are generally quite a few people in the audience who are very honest about it. But it's a song that came about, it was like a morning in the studio.
It was
before we were recording, right?
Yeah, it was the Sunday before the very first tracking day. So we were starting to record for an entire week. And so we moved into the studio on Sunday just to get settled. And we were just hanging with Sean, and he just said, "Hey, let's write something."
Yeah, it kind of just fell out.
Yeah, it was a quick one. It just ended up being really fun, and it's one of our favorites to play live.
Yeah, and it is about hangovers, but we always say from stage, a hangover doesn't necessarily have to be from a substance. It can be something that someone said the day before that made you feel like your dreams are not your own anymore. And the song is actually about feeling that way and picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and silencing the voice, whether it's in your head or it's coming from the outside, that says, "I can't," because you can. And we want to encourage people to not give up on their dreams.
Yeah. Track 3 is a song called "God Forbidden," and it was one of those songs. It was the only song on the album that we wrote on piano. We wrote it with Sean McConnell, and it was another song that actually sort of came about pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I think we wrote it in less than 2 hours, and it just felt really good. There's a song that Claire sang in season 1 on Nashville, the television show, called "If I Didn't Know Better," and it's a song that John Paul White
and Aaron
Ray wrote, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful song, and it's kind of got this darkness to it that I've always been attracted to. And so "God Forbidden" sort of, for me, feels like Bowen Young's version of "If I Didn't Know Better."
It's a very, like, the dangerous side of love, where you fall in love and you really do fall, and you might bounce, you might get caught, or you might really, really get hurt. And that's very much a part of our story in the very beginning, trying not to let each other in because we'd had such dreadful experiences romantically beforehand. But it ultimately we just, it was like two magnets pulling towards each other. We couldn't have avoided it if we tried.
Yeah,
We did try.
we tried to avoid it, but it just didn't work.
What's next?
Track 4 is a song called "7 Days."
Oh, yeah.
This is one of the last songs that we wrote for the album. I got together with a friend of ours named Jeff Cohen, who is a really, really talented, fantastic songwriter who's had a great deal of success here in Nashville and around the world with his songs. And I've known Jeff for a lot of years, but we had never written a song together. And we got together at his studio and one afternoon and wrote this song, and I felt good about it. It felt different than any of the other songs that we had for the record. And I really enjoyed it, and I brought it home and played it for Claire, and it was, Claire felt like it was one that we needed to.
Yeah, I'd been on set all day.
Yeah.
And he played it for me, and I was like, that has that has to be there because it's about missing each other.
Yeah.
It's so difficult when you love somebody, you miss them just as much as you love them when they're not there. So I was like, yep, needs to be there.
Yeah. I'm glad I made the record.
Me too. What's next?
Track
Oh,
5.
track 5 is the title track, Us. We wrote this with our dear friend Justin Halpin and Cale Dodds, who are two fantastic writers in Nashville, and longtime friends. And it's we've told the story for a long time about how we met, it, singing at the Bridgestone, meeting 20 minutes before walking onto one of the biggest stages in Nashville, and it's such a, I mean, it's such a part of who we are as a couple, and we hadn't written a song about what that night actually felt like for us. And so Us became the amalgamation of all of the feelings that we could never have known would change our lives forever that happened that night.
So I would say, let's see, track 6 is Aurora.
Yeah.
That was a song that we actually just got to play in Philadelphia this past weekend. It was really really fun. We got to play this event for the Philadelphia Eagles Autism Foundation, and just in a beautiful organization that's really helping a lot of people. And so it was just a real thrill and honor to play
Yeah.
Aurora this weekend there in Philly. But it came about honestly. We came in the studio that day, and Claire just had this word in her head, and it was Aurora, and she wanted to write a song around that, and so Sean and I hunkered down with her, and that's what came out.
Yeah. The idea started with 3 absolutely beautiful, magical children, 2 of whom are autistic people trying to live in a world that is largely built for neurotypical people. And that is not an easy thing to do. And these kids are like, they have different sets of challenges, but in spite of everything, they just, when you're around them, they just make you want to be the best version of yourself. And we affectionately call them auroras because they just shine from the inside out. And I guess it had been on my mind to write something for them and honor people who are just going through that, walking that sort of path in life. And it was really wonderful to get to play it for an organization like the Eagles Autism Foundation.
Yeah, amazing.
What's next?
Track 7 is a song called Halo, which is probably familiar to a lot of people, maybe millions or billions of people, because it was written and recorded by Beyonce. And it was written by Beyonce, Ryan Tedder, and Evan Bogart. And it was a song that a few years back Claire had said to me, hey, have you ever thought about trying to do a version of Halo? Like, I'd love to hear you sing that. And it's having a song out there that was sung by one of the greatest singers to ever live, is somewhat intimidating. And so I sort of put it off for a while, and then one day during lockdown, went in the music room, closed the door, and I just sort of fiddled through the changes and started kind of singing it, and it felt really nice. And so I took it out to Claire and said, "How does this feel?" And she really sort of latched onto it and made it her own. And she said, "I think we should send it to Sean." And so we sent a work tape off of our iPhone to Sean, and he said, "I think we need to cut that on the album." And so we did. And it's been a really fun song to reinterpret and to take someone else's words and melodies and make it our own. And we've been playing it around the world for the last couple of years, and it's been just an absolute blast.
You sing the pants off, baby.
The next song on the album is a song called "Gets Late Early," and this is a song that quite frankly, I never expected anyone to ever hear. It was a song that I wrote, again, one day, just here in the music room by myself, just sort of getting out some feelings and emotions that I had about Nashville and this town, and it's like I said, it's a tough business, and but
something that Justin said as well, right?
yeah, I was in the studio with Justin Halpin, and we were we were laughing about the fact that our co-writer was really hungover, and he just did not. He was not feeling great, and he was having a hard time. And Justin said, "Gets late early in this town," and I was like, "Man, that is a title." And so, it really is just it's a song about the journey of a songwriter in this city and what it can feel like, how alone it can feel. Um, and I just never thought anyone would ever hear it because I just sort of wrote it, alone, and just thought it would live on my iPhone, and that was it. And Claire heard it, and she asked me to play it for her, and so I did. And she said, I think we should cut that song on the album." And I was like, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah, we should send it to Sean." And I was like, "I mean, we can, but I just didn't have any expectations." And I was shocked when Sean said, you know, he really wanted to cut that song. And so
I
we,
wasn't.
and Claire said, "If we're gonna do it, we got to do it like Springsteen. We can't, because it can come across pretty sad if you just play it on acoustic guitar." But she said, "You need to make it a war cry," and
Yeah.
so we gave it our best shot, and
You killed it.
there it is.
What is the last one? Oh no, there's two.
Two left.
World Brand New. We had so much fun writing this one. We wrote it with our dear friend Mickey Echo. And it was I don't know, when did we start? I can't remember when we wrote it, but it's about all different kinds of love. We wanted to be, love is love. Love is inclusive. Love knows no bounds. Love lives forever. And we would, I don't know, I think it was a melody that came out first, and then mumbling lyrics and World Brand New came out. It's like, oh wow, like think of that person who is your world brand new. It could be anybody in your life.
Yeah.
But when you find that person, your whole life changes. So we wrote the crazy jangly thing, and Brandon was like, "It's kind of like a revival," and I was like, I didn't. He had to explain to me what a revival was, because I'm not from around here. But it's such a fun song to play live. We absolutely love it.
Yeah. And the last song on the album is a song called "To the Bone." It's a song that we also wrote with our dear friend Mickey Echo, and he actually produced it as well. We've been writing with him for the last probably 2 years now, and have written, I don't know, 7 or 8 songs so far. And it was the last addition to the album, and we were just so attracted to the rawness of the way Mickey produced it and recorded it, and we just felt like it was the right way to end the album. Just saying one last time on the record, I'm going to love you with everything that I've got until the end of time. And so "To the Bone" is the final track.
Oh my goodness, I loved hearing all of that. I love when songwriters share inspiration behind songs, and I really enjoyed hearing each track and the stories behind them as well. So fun. So, congratulations on this project. What do you hope listeners take away from it?
Oh, thank you for saying that, first of all. I think, like we said, we want them to hear their stories in our stories. We want to let them in. And one of the most important things for us, whether it's a live performance or we're doing this here in a podcast or wherever we are, we want to give people, maybe they need a break from what's going on in their lives outside of that room when we're doing a show. Or sometimes people have said that we've helped them find words for a feeling that they had, or something that they were going through that they really couldn't articulate what they were feeling to the people in their lives, and that we might help them find those words. But at the end of the day, everything we do comes from a place of empathy and kindness, and we're both people who we come from very different walks of life, and we've always kind of stuck out in our own way, and not really fitted in. So ultimately, we want people to know that if they feel like they don't belong anywhere, they belong right here with us.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for sharing all about us. Again, congratulations on a fabulous project. And
Thank you.
Thank
again,
you.
thank you for sharing the stories behind the songs, too.
Well,
Of
thank you
course.
very much, and we appreciate
Yeah.
having us on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And briefly before we go, I would love for each of you to share one piece of advice for any songwriters listening.
I would say the best piece of advice I could give is just don't quit. Just never, never ever quit. Um, Even if you think it's a song that no one will ever hear, uh, songs enrich us, and the process of writing one song may lead to 10 more songs. And so the exercise of being creative and writing, I think, is such a beautiful thing. And I know um, it has encouraged me and picked me up when I needed it. Um, and so I just keep going back to it. So never quit.
Yeah. For me, I think there's so much beautiful individuality in the world, and sometimes it can be really easy for people to look at someone else's journey that seems to have worked out and go, okay, that's what I've got to do. But the thing about that is, it's magic that you are the only one of you in the whole entire world. So bringing you and who you are, your stories, your experience of life to a song, and writing songs that you would like to listen to, that's really special. There's nobody else on the whole planet that can do that. So just making sure that you remember where you came from, and writing songs that you would like to listen to, not songs that somebody else has said that you should try to emulate and
Mm,
sound like.
yeah.
Just be you.
Fabulous. Two perfect pieces of advice. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. Can you please share with everybody where they can listen to your music and connect with you online?
You can find us. You can find our sorry. You can find our record us anywhere you can find music. Anywhere you listen to music. You can find us at Bowen Young Official on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. We're probably most active on Instagram, I think, and
Yep.
that there's I don't know how many there were. It's pretty much Bowen Young Official on all of them.
Yeah. And BowenYoung.com.
Yes, and bowenyoung.com. Um, we're so happy that the response that we've gotten from this record has been so positive. So thank you so much for your time. It's been really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for joining me, listeners. I hope you enjoyed this fabulous chat with Bowen Young. And of course, until next time, stay
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 right
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 on
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 track.
track.
track.